You call it failure because you expected a different ending. You expected the world to respond to your effort with reward, to your preparation with success, to your intention with recognition. And when the result did not match the picture in your mind, the mind rushed to name the moment. It said, "I failed," as if a single outcome could define the worth of a whole person. But an outcome is not you. It is an event outside the boundaries of your will. It arrives through forces you did not appoint. Other people's choices, the timing of things, chance, the limits of your body, the limits of your knowledge, the hidden conditions you could not see. The mind knows all this, yet it still clings to the childish belief that effort guarantees victory. That belief is the root of agitation. The calm mind does not deny loss. It does not pretend that setbacks are pleasant. It simply refuses to lie about what the setback is. Failure is not a thing in the world. It is a judgment, and judgment is yours to govern. This is where the Stoic begins, not with speeches, not with comfort, but with a clean separation. There is what happens, and there is what you say about what happens. The first is not under your command. The second is, most people live as if the second is also outside them. They say, "I can't help feeling crushed. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't calm down." They speak as if their mind were a weather system, as if thoughts and emotions descend like storms, and the only task is to endure them. But your mind is not the sky. It is a faculty of choice. And the moment you remember this, you regain your footing. You do not control whether the job offer comes. You control whether you interpret the rejection as proof of your inadequacy. You do not control whether the project succeeds. You control whether you treat the result as the measure of your character. You do not control whether someone approves of you. You control whether you need their approval to remain steady. The Stoic remains calm in failure because the Stoic refuses to hand over the inner citadel to the outer world. Calm is not a mood. It is a consequence of correct accounting. When you place value on what is not yours to decide, you create fear. When you create fear, you create tension. And tension makes the mind desperate. Desperation makes the mind irrational. And irrationality makes failure feel like a threat to survival. This is why a minor setback can feel like annihilation. Not because the event is large, but because the mind has attached its identity to what is not within its control. Look carefully at the word you use. Failure. What do you mean? Do you mean you did not get what you wanted? That you were not chosen? That the numbers did not add up? That the audience did not applaud? That the relationship ended? That you were surpassed? That you made an error and suffered consequences? These are all different events, yet the mind packs them into one heavy label. It calls them all failure and then reacts to the label, not to the reality. The label brings shame, dread, and panic. The reality is simply this: something occurred that you did not prefer. Preference is natural. Attachment is the problem. A rational person prefers health but does not collapse when sick, prefers success but does not become enslaved by outcomes, prefers to be praised but does not require praise to do what is right. If you want to understand Stoic calm, you must stop treating calm as something you try to feel and start treating it as something that follows from accurate judgment. The mind becomes calm when it stops demanding that the world obey it. Failure is the world refusing your demand. So the Stoic removes the demand. This does not make you passive, it makes you precise. You still act, you still plan, you still work, you still strive. But your striving is clean. It is aimed at what is yours. The quality of your effort, the clarity of your intention, the integrity of your decisions. Most people strive for the trophy. The Stoic strives for the mind that deserves no shame whether the trophy comes or not. You can see the difference in the hours after something goes wrong. The common mind runs to narration. It rehearses the scene. It invents a court. It imagines witnesses. It builds a case. It asks, what will they think? It asks, what does this say about me? It asks, how could I be so stupid? It asks, how do I erase this? All of that is an attempt to control what cannot be controlled. The past, other minds, reputation, the randomness of events. The Stoic does not waste energy fighting the immovable. The Stoic asks only, what part of this belongs to me? If you made a mistake, that belongs to you. Not as a reason for self-hatred, but as material for improvement. If the market changed, that does not belong to you. If someone acted unfairly, their injustice belongs to them. If your body reached its limit, that belongs to nature. And once the Stoic has sorted these things, the rest is simple. Not easy in the emotional sense, but simple in the rational sense. The mind says, I will correct what is mine to correct. I will accept what is not mine to correct. I will not add suffering through false judgments. Notice this. The Stoic does not say, I will not feel pain. Pain is a physical and emotional signal. It comes when something is lost, when expectations are shattered, when effort seems wasted. The Stoic does not wage war on the initial sting. The Stoic wages war on the second arrow. The second arrow is your interpretation. This is unbearable. This should not have happened. I cannot recover. This proves I am lesser. This ruins everything. That is where most suffering is born. Not in the event, but in the insistence that the event must mean something catastrophic about you or about the future. To remain calm, you train the mind to stop making prophecies. Failure tempts you into predicting a ruined life. It whispers, this is the end. But the Stoic sees the trick. The future is not present. Only your judgment is present. Only your choice is present. And choice is always available. Even now, especially now, a person who cannot tolerate failure has built a fragile identity. They have built themselves out of results and applause. Their confidence depends on external confirmation. They call this confidence, but it is not confidence. It is a loan from the world, and the world can call in its loan at any moment. Stoic calm is different. It is not a feeling of guaranteed success. It is the knowledge that, whatever happens, you can meet it with reason. This is why the Stoic remains calm, because calm is not dependent on outcomes. It is dependent on governance. Governance of perception, governance of impulse, governance of desire. Failure tests your governance the way rough water tests a ship. The question is not whether waves exist. The question is whether you built the ship correctly. Most people at the moment of failure try to rebuild the sea. They try to bargain with reality. They try to rewrite the outcome. They try to make it not be so. They sit in the mind and repeat, if only I had, if only they had, if only it were different. But if only is a form of surrender disguised as analysis. It is the mind refusing to accept the present. The Stoic says, it is as it is. This is not defeat, it is the start of freedom. Because until you accept what is, you cannot act on what remains. And what remains is always your conduct, your next decision, your next word, your next effort, your next refusal to be pulled into bitterness, your next refusal to become unjust because someone else was unjust. Failure often offers a bargain. Become smaller, become resentful, become cautious, stop trying, protect yourself by never risking again. This bargain is seductive because it promises relief. But it is not relief, it is slow decay. The Stoic refuses this bargain, not out of pride, but out of loyalty to reason. Reason says, what matters is not avoiding setbacks. What matters is remaining aligned with what is right. Consider what failure actually reveals. It reveals where you placed your hope. It reveals what you depended on. It reveals what you thought you needed. This is why failure feels so exposing. It pulls off the mask. If you are calm only when praised, you will see it. If you are kind only when winning, you will see it. If you are disciplined only when outcomes cooperate, you will see it. Failure is a mirror. It shows you the true state of your inner life. The common person sees this mirror and panics. The Stoic sees it and learns. Learning is within your control. Humility is within your control. Correction is within your control. Dignity is within your control. And when you root your self-respect in these, failure loses its power to shake you. Because then, even in loss, you can say, I did not betray my principles. I did not become dishonest. I did not become cruel. I did not abandon reason. You may have lost a competition, but you did not lose yourself. This is the central distinction the Stoic makes. External loss is not the same as internal loss. External loss is often inevitable. Internal loss is optional. Internal loss happens when you let failure turn you into someone you would not respect. When you lie to protect your image. When you blame the innocent to escape shame. When you lash out at those closest to you. When you drown yourself in distractions so you do not have to face the moment. When you become bitter and start hoping others fail too, so your pain feels justified. These are the true defeats, and they are within your control. So the Stoic stays calm, not by forcing calm, but by refusing to commit the only failure that matters, the failure of character. Now observe your own mind when you fail. Watch how quickly it reaches for extremes. It says, I always ruin things. It says, nothing ever works out. It says, I am not built for this. These are not descriptions. They are emotional exaggerations. The mind is trying to create a story big enough to match its discomfort. It thinks that if the story is large, the pain makes sense. But pain does not require a grand narrative. Pain is a sensation, a wave. You can allow it to move through without turning it into a verdict. The Stoic trains the mind to speak plainly. Not I am a failure, but this attempt did not succeed. Not I am ruined, but I am disappointed. Not I can't handle this, but this is difficult and I can choose how to respond. Words matter because words are judgments. Judgments shape emotion. Emotion shapes impulse. Impulse shapes action. And action shapes character. So the Stoic begins at the root. When failure arrives, you slow the mind. You do not rush to explain. You do not rush to defend. You do not rush to escape. You pause and you ask, what exactly happened? What part of this is within my control right now? Right now, you can control whether you act with integrity. Right now, you can control whether you speak truthfully. Right now, you can control whether you learn. Right now, you can control whether you turn disappointment into self-destruction. This is not a theory, it is a practice of attention. Most people lose calm because they lose the present moment. They leap into the past to torture themselves or into the future to frighten themselves. The Stoic stays with what is present, the breath, the facts, the next reasonable step, not as a strategy to feel better, but because it is the only place where choice exists. You cannot choose in the past. You cannot choose in the imagined future. You can only choose now. Failure often comes with social fear. It is not just that you did not achieve the result. It is that others might see it. They might judge you. They might talk. They might remember. This is one of the deepest chains, to be enslaved to other minds. But other minds are not yours. You cannot manage them. You can only attempt to manipulate them, and manipulation is a form of weakness. It makes your peace dependent on the opinions of the unstable. The Stoic says, let them think what they will, not with contempt, with clarity. If someone judges you unfairly, their judgment is their act. It belongs to them. If someone judges you accurately and you truly acted poorly, then you have gained something valuable, a correction. In both cases, the Stoic remains composed because the Stoic does not treat reputation as the highest good. Reputation is smoke, it shifts with wind. Character is substance, it is yours. Here is a hard truth, you will fail again. Not because you are deficient, but because you are human, and you move through a world that does not submit to your plans. If your peace depends on never failing, you have built peace on an impossible condition. That is not peace, that is denial. The Stoic builds peace on something possible, the consistent use of reason. You can always choose to respond rationally. You can always refuse to add lies. You can always return to what is within your control. This is why calm is available even in the aftermath, even when the stomach tightens, even when sleep is difficult, even when the mind replays the scene. Calm does not require that the body be relaxed. Calm requires that the mind not abandon itself. Now, what does it look like in practice? In the moments when failure hits and the mind starts to spin, it looks like restraint. It looks like the refusal to speak in heat. It looks like the refusal to send the message you will regret. It looks like not making life decisions while wounded. It looks like a deliberate narrowing. I will deal with what is mine. I will not chase what is not mine. You do not need to be dramatic about it. You simply return again and again to the same question. What is within my control? Your control is not over the result. It is over your judgment of the result. Your control is not over whether the world approves. It is over whether you require approval to act well. Your control is not over whether you stumble. It is over whether you lie on the ground and call it destiny. Failure is an event. You decide what you become afterward. This is the turning point. Many people use failure as permission to abandon their standards. They say, since I lost, I might as well stop being disciplined. I might as well numb myself. I might as well give up. But this is irrational. If discipline was only for winning, then discipline was never discipline. It was bargaining. The Stoic does not bargain with virtue. Virtue is not a tool to secure outcomes. It is the proper function of a rational being. You act with integrity because it is right to act with integrity. You practice courage because it is right to practice courage. You practice self-control because it is right to govern impulses. And when you live this way, failure cannot humiliate you. It can sting. It can inconvenience you. It can delay you. But it cannot degrade you unless you consent. This is the core, consent. You are not forced to interpret loss as disgrace. You are not forced to interpret rejection as identity. You are not forced to interpret a mistake as a final verdict. The mind offers these interpretations, but you do not have to accept them. You can reject them the way you reject bad arithmetic. Not with anger, with correction. You say that is not accurate, that is not useful, that is not within my control. Then you return to the facts. What did I do? What could I have done better? What was outside my influence? What is the next reasonable action? And then you act. Calm is the byproduct of this method. Not because it eliminates hardship, but because it eliminates confusion. Most suffering comes from confusion. Confusing outcome with character, confusing preference with necessity, confusing the opinions of others with reality. The Stoic cuts through this. The Stoic sees failure as training, not in a sentimental way, in a practical way. Failure is resistance. Resistance reveals strength and weakness. Resistance builds capacity. If you never met resistance, you would never know whether your reason is stable. So the Stoic does not crave failure, but neither does the Stoic fear it. Fear is for what can destroy you. Failure cannot destroy you unless you have placed your self-worth in what is not yours. So relocate your worth. Place it where it belongs, in your judgments, your choices, your conduct. When you do this, you can walk through failure with a straight posture. Not because you are proud, but because you are honest about what happened, honest about what is yours, honest about what remains. There is another hidden form of failure, the failure to meet your own fantasy. You imagine yourself flawless. You imagine yourself always composed, always productive, always admired. When you fail, you are not only grieving the outcome, you are grieving the collapse of that fantasy self. The Stoic has no use for fantasies. The Stoic aims to be a good human being, not an invincible one. Goodness is compatible with error. Goodness is compatible with loss. Goodness is compatible with imperfection. This is why the Stoic can be calm. The Stoic is not shocked by being human. If you want Stoic calm, stop being surprised when the world is difficult. Stop being surprised when you are imperfect. Stop demanding conditions that reality will not provide. Demand only this of yourself, to meet whatever comes with reason. Now, when you rise from a failure, do not rise with vengeance. Do not rise with the need to prove. These are still forms of dependence on external outcomes. They keep your mind tied to the same chain. Rise with clarity. Rise with correction. Rise with a quiet readiness to try again. Not because you must win, but because it is your nature to act, to improve, to align with reason. And if you try again and you fail again, you will do the same thing again. You will sort what is yours from what is not, and you will keep your mind intact. This is the Stoic success, not a guarantee of results, a guarantee of dignity, a guarantee that you will not be dragged by every verdict of the world, a guarantee that you will not surrender your inner order. This is how the Stoic remains calm, by refusing to be confused about ownership. The world owns outcomes. You own your will, and the will governed by reason is enough. Peace comes from holding only what belongs to you and releasing what never did.